Yeah. Will you ever? I don't know. Like, despite of Rothbard's mistakes, will you ever forgive him for
It's like
creating this mess?
That's a really smart question. I don't think anybody's asked me anything that deep in a long time, and I might have to think about that. Will I? I have a hard time forgiving the whole chain of people from Zoroaster on down. And I don't think I could forgive a Marx or a Rothbard or a Freud any more than I could forgive a Saul, or I don't think I could do that, because I view it up there with the great evils of history. So why would what does forgive mean? Does that mean no, because forgive would mean that I would to me, I would say that above all, that we should make sure that never happens again. And so that is the single thing we've got to prevent from happening again, is another Abrahamic, Kantian, Ashkenazi, postmodern set of deceptions, because these things are cancers to human. I mean, they're as bad as the Great Plagues. I mean, they're horrible. I mean, these are. I mean, how many people have died from Islam? 750 million. I mean, how many people died from Marxism alone? We lost 100 million people, and we've set back humanity how far? The Greeks were, Archimedes was very close to the Industrial Revolution, and the Romans, had they been able to recover, might have brought it about. So we lost it. And so the Jews and the Christians brought about, and the Muslims together brought about 1,000-year dark age of suffering and death. Why didn't we go right from Greco-Roman civilization to the Industrial Revolution? So you want to say, I'm going to forgive these people? I don't feel very forgiving. It seems like it's the last thing on earth I should forgive.
I don't know. As a Christian, I still respect Rothbard, because he did bring out some half truths into discussions, but I cannot. But I have to reject everything that he brought along, his ethical system, because I really do think, and I do thank you for pointing this out, that Rothbard did destroy a respectable libertarian movement, or just libertarianism. As you said, you killed anarcho-capitalism, and it will stay dead or ever. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's always going to. I mean, there's a market for idiots, right? I mean, there's always going to be a Marxist and a Rothbardian around. I mean, if you look at Rothbard in the sense that I just stated it, which is, if you look at Marxism, Misesianism, Rothbardianism, then Hoppe gets a hold of it, and he does the best he can with the way he was taught, which is Kantian rationalism, and he was taught by Marxists. And so he did the best he could. Well, I came up in a different world. I'm raised entirely under the sciences, and I'm raised under the Anglo philosophy and Anglo system of common law. I mean, Anglo philosophy is really just an extension of law. So, the way I just inherited my ancestors' way, the way Hoppe inherited his ancestors' way, the way that Rothbard and Mises inherited their ancestors' way of thinking. And this is the problem with these different grammars and ways of argument. And so, but to me, you look at it, Rothbard put his arms around a problem. He tried to create a logic of cooperation. Hoppe took it, and he really did bridge the gap between law and logic. What I did is that I just took his Kantian and Marxist justificationism, which people might have to go look that up on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and understand the difference between rational justificationism and scientific falsificationism. It's it's a very big difference. And I restated what he stated in science, and I took it from there. And so, if you look at Rothbard in that chain, then the heroic thing to draw from it is we solve social science in 3 generations. Now that is fucking cool. And if you want to say that Rothbard did the best he could, Hoppe did the best he could, and I did the best he could, and together we solved social science in 3 generations, and nobody else did, despite us being on the freaking fringe of everything, then, I'm sorry, I think that's a pretty heroic way to position it. If you're going to isolate Rothbard as himself and isolate Hoppe as himself or me as myself, I don't think that's I think you have to criticize each individual. But if you look at the movement of anarcho-capitalism as a research program, an intellectual research program into the development of a rigid construction of natural law based on what they called property, what I would call non-imposition, you would say, shit, we did what nobody else did. I mean, it's freaking outrageous. So, from that perspective, if you want to say, did he bring something to the table? Did Hoppe bring something to the table? Then we all brought what we had to the table, and I think we solved it in 3 generations, and that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I wonder where Hayek's fit into this anyway.
Hayek is where most people look at Rothbard, I look at Hayek, and where Hayek fits is there are 2, besides Einstein, there are really 2 or 3 papers. They're not even books that really matter in the 20th century. There's Einstein's paper on relativity. There's what's his name? Computer science. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Anyway, the Turing's paper. Sorry, it's what is it? 7:40? Yeah, I'm getting tired. It's 7:40. So we had Turing's paper on computation, the Turing machines. We had what's the guy? Wow, you see, if I'm forgetting names, it means I'm tired. The really left-wing Jewish guy that does grammars, Chomsky. Chomsky does Chomsky's grammars, and Hayek's presentation on economics before the Nobel Committee. If you see those 4 papers, aside from Einstein's, that's the revolution. And I think the way I look at it is Hayek started with his first work is actually on cognition, on the brain, and he gets very close. So Hayek was too early, and compared to Turing. So Turing comes along, and if if those 2 guys had been reversed, Hayek would have been able, like Chomsky was, to rely on Turing's model instead, and I think Hayek would have got to where I got. The problem is that order didn't happen. So I'm sitting here as the guy who's at the end of that chain of events, which is relativity, information. Information is the problem of the social sciences and the problem of commission. Maybe Popper's falsification in there, Turing's computability, and Chomsky's grammar. And if you look across those, you can say, well, I have the privilege of being the guy in line behind them. And so where Hoppe doesn't have, or Rothbard have none of those. They weren't taught the same stuff I was taught. And so I learned through this very scientific rather than this historical, rationalistic Marxist nonsense. And so through those 2 chains, you can see that I'm just the beneficiary of those two axes of scholarship. To me, the person I associate with, like most people associate, my kindred spirit is Hayek, and I probably, when I read him, I hear myself talking. I mean, I wish that's way too gracious to myself. What I mean is his frame of reference is very similar to how I look at the world. And unfortunately, Hayek starts out with what we would call psychology today, and he does an amazing job of working through psychology, economics, and law. And I have the differences that I've gone through the artificial intelligence revolution, so I have computability. So I don't start with psychology. I start with computability and go through economics and law. And so I have the benefit that Hop and Rothbard don't have.
Honestly, I kind of just view Hop as your Mises of sorts, and you just sort of just like, Hayek, just I always have that type. I always just view your relationship between Hop is similar to Mises and Hayek.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I probably, I heard Hop the first time at Mises Institute, and I remember it really clearly. And I'm like, God damn it, there's something wrong in there, but he's got it. And that was in 90, might have been 98 or 99 or 2000, somewhere in there. And I knew he had the problem. I've been working on the problem since about 92. And when I heard him, I'm like, holy crap, the freaking guy's got it. Can I do this? And so I remember telling Walter Block, I said, the problem is you guys are mistaking the Mises-Hayek relationship, and they're just two ends of the same spectrum. Hayek's working from the top down, and Mises is working from the bottom up. But I mean, you're creating a different distinction that doesn't have any difference, when Hayek's basically right. I mean, what they were trying to do is preserve. The Mises Institute has been failing, and it will fail over time if it hasn't gotten itself into financial enough problems already. It will fail because it's too dedicated to the memory of Rothbard and his ethics of property, which is ghetto ethics, which is totally intolerable by the Christian and Protestant population. And so it's just wrong. Hop tries to correct this, but he does it with intersubjectively variable, viable property, and he does it with argumentation ethics. And I don't. That's all just a bunch of excuses to me. The end result is, why don't I kill you and take your stuff? Why don't me and mine kill you and yours and take your stuff? That's the beginning of negotiation, not argumentation. And so I start with violence, the assumption of violence, and Hobbes starts with the assumption of cooperation. And once you make there's a change from his sort of binary logic to my ternary, you end up with that you have to use violence to create a social order, and you have to create a social order that can survive competition from other social orders. You can't create an ideal, isolated social order. And once you understand that the Rothbardian, Hoppian world it doesn't exist because it can't. And the only way to create a libertarian order is rule of law, not with ghetto ethics, but with sovereignty ethics, ethics of sovereignty. In other words, non-imposition. Then you understand why none of those societies exist.
Yes, exactly. You're totally correct about that. I think I'm gonna end this here.
Before I forever talk your audience to sleep.
Yeah, we've been streaming for an hour, and you said you're getting tired anyway. So yeah.
When I start forgetting my nouns, I know dudes, I gotta shut up soon.
I really hope you enjoy this talk of ours, and I hope you can come back to my channel.
Whenever you want, man. It's my job. I don't ask for interviews. I have enough to do, but if I get a smart guy to talk to, I don't refuse them either. And you're a smart guy, so thank you.
Okay. I hope everybody has a good Memorial Day weekend in the United States, and good night.